What is up, guys? Welcome back to Journey of Entrepreneurship. In today's video, I'm going to talk about recessions and depressions. With that being said, let's start with the video. So, I have created this graph to explain you exactly how the economy works, how it fluctuates, what is a recession, what is a depression. So we're going to suppose that 2017 was the peak of the economy. Then we start to notice that the economy has dropped. That's because all the money that was borrowed was already invested to grow the economy. Because of this, creditors, when they borrow money, they charge interest because they want to make some profit from the money that they have borrowed. Because of this, business and some countries, they need to restructure their strategies so they could pay back their loans plus interest. And sometimes some businesses have gone into a loss because the business didn't work out, or they have been spending so much money in research and development and they have to cut on expenses. So that's why unemployment goes up, and that causes that sales goes down as well. Because of this, and that the entire economy, 70% of the economy is consumer spending. Because people is consuming less, the economy starts to tremble as a little bit, and that's why a recession happened. And that caused that the people starts to invest money on safe assets such as gold and silver, because the economy have turned more conservative and have shrunk. So because of this, on the 2020 illness that nobody expected, the government come to the aid and start to dump trillions of dollars to decelerate the recession, because what they want to avoid is that the people get upset on getting behind on their payments and getting behind on their expenses, because most of the people is living paycheck to paycheck, and lots of governments know that, but the government doesn't have unlimited resources. So it have to come a moment where they say, all right guys, we have done as much as we can, but you guys are already on yourself. Because of this, it's inevitable that the recession will hit a bottom. The bottom is where the economy stabilizes and it really showing the value of the things without appreciation or less than the value. Why that happen? Well, because of human psychology. On times where the things aren't doing well and people is desperate, that's why Warren Buffett says that he is greedy when people is fearful, and he is fearful when people is greedy, because this is the moment where people could make a lot of money and they could leverage their wealth to make more returns on their investments. So they try to fish deals that are less than the value of the property or the asset, or equal of the value of the assets without appreciation. That's how they could leverage their investment to take the curb when the economy starts to pick up again. So how the economy is restored when it have hit bottom? Well, the secret is that when creditors have get back the loans plus the interest, they start to borrow money again, but they have lowered the interest rate. Because they have lowered the interest rate, they're giving to the people an interest to borrow money. Because if the interest is so high, it's less likely that someone will borrow the money, because the money that is borrowed need to be paid back to the person who loans you the money. That's why when the interest rate is low and the inflation is stable, the people is incentivized to take loans and invest it in a asset that could make them money on the future, and to make businesses and to create jobs. I think that the economy is still a little bit like a Ponzi scheme, but I'm still in research and I could change my mind. So continuing, I have said that borrowers have gone these loans with low interest rates. So when you are down, the only way you can go is up. That's why the economy could scale back to normality, but it will be progressively, because it need to be added value to assets that have lost their value or that have lost their appreciation. So when the economy starts to doing well back, the people starts to sell back those assets so they could make profit, and it could make the double of their money that they have invested or triple of the money that they have invested. So because of this, the people sooner or later they will get back to a peak on the economy. But be aware that a decade or a little bit less than a decade could happen again a recession. That's because nothing could go up after could go down. And we have seen this on the stock market, we have seen this on the price of properties, and that is normal because people is very never hold things, because sometimes they take too much risk, or they are fearful and they start to sell things because they don't have any option. Sometimes they need to pay back a mortgage on, or they don't have enough capital to pay back those expenses. So as I said, the idea is to leverage the bottom of the recession so you can invest your money on assets that have less value or have equal value, or what is really worth, so you can take the appreciation when the things aren't doing well. Now, so what is a depression? A economic depression is a phenomenon caused by the hyperinflation that have surpassed the GDP of the corresponding country. So that means that the gross domestic product, or the value of that country, is less than the inflation that they have in their current country. And that's what Maduro did on their state, because they start to print so much money on their economy that the replacement cost of goods and services was getting so high that was unsustainable for the population, causing that people get really desperate and starts to starve and from eat from trash. And that's because the money, the bolivares, starts to depreciate their value, causing that nobody desires the currency. Besides, the crime rate goes up, scaring investors. So what is causing Venezuela is causing a slow decline and a slow decrement and uncertainty on their population. And that's because all it started with PDVSA. PDVSA was selling their petroleum like for $40 their barrel. But other countries could be more competitive because they cost them less to produce and to export their goods, so they could make more profit from their oil and sell it for less, causing that Venezuela to stay competitive they need to break even or sell for less than what the petroleum was worth, because PDVSA was a public um, company, was run by the state, and what has happened is that they were having so much employees on PDVSA that it was on an unsustainable business, and they were not incentivizing people of doing other projects or being more entrepreneurial. And what is causing is that they were so dependent on petroleum that they were losing so much money that their GDP decreased, their unemployment rate went up, and it started a moment where people started to migrate it to other countries where they could prosper. So the idea for a country is create prosperity so people could create projects by themselves, not to have to worry about feed themselves, not to have worry about living under a bridge. So that's why it's so important to being an entrepreneur and take risk and diversify the economy, because if a economy is so centered on a only one research or only one commodity, it's unavoidable that you will be having bad times. I mean, Venezuela is a clear example where hyperinflation have turned piles of cash of bolivars in just paper, and many Venezuelans sells their bolivars for whatever you want to give it to them, because they need the money to sustain themselves on other countries that they have migrated to. So keep in mind, and that's depreciation. Alright guys, that's all for today's video, but before to leave, make sure to like, share and comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. With that out of the way, see you on the next one.